I'm used to teaching in a classroom where I can hold a bat in my hands. Those of you who've had classes from me know that. So this is a bit unusual. Live like Jesus. Ashley told me this is the theme this quarter. And so as I thought about that, I wondered, what is it that helps me do that? It's a pretty tall order. But I guess that depends on your view of who Jesus is. Some say that Jesus was simply a good moral teacher, like other historical figures that spread messages of love, peace, harmony, and goodwill. Okay. But the Jesus of the Bible claimed to be God. If you have seen me, you have seen the Father. You are free to think the Bible is just a bunch of made-up stories and fiction, in which case, just put it down and walk away. But don't try and argue that Jesus was simply a good moral teacher. You can't claim that Jesus preached love, peace, harmony, and goodwill, and then ignore his claims of divinity. I like what C.S. Lewis said about this idea in his book, Mere Christianity. I'm going to read this, so I really have to squint. I am trying here to prevent anyone saying the really foolish thing that people often try to say about him. I'm ready to accept that he was a great moral teacher, but I don't accept his claim to be God. This is the one thing that we must not say. A man who is merely a man and said the sort of things Jesus said would not be a good moral teacher. He would either be a lunatic on the level of the man who says he is a poached egg, or else he would be the devil of hell. You must make your choice. Either this man was and is the Son of God, or else a madman or something worse. You can shut him up for a fool, you can spit at him, you can kill him as a demon, or you can fall at his feet and call him Lord and God. But let us not come with any patronizing nonsense about being a great human teacher. He has not left that open to us. He did not intend it. That means that there's a limited range for how we talk about and how we think about Jesus. It puts us in a position to either ignore him completely or take his message very seriously. I'm going to proceed from the point of view that I believe his claim about his divinity. I spent most of my life trying to live like Jesus, with varying degrees of success. Sometimes it's really pretty simple, and sometimes it's nearly impossible. In different seasons of my life, I've come across a number of things that have helped and give strength in this pursuit of this journey. One of those things, oddly enough, has been poetry. A number of years ago, my wife shared a poem with me that I keep coming back to over and over again. It helps me understand my place in the world, and it helps me understand how I can live like Jesus. It's a poem by Edna St. Vincent Millay, Sonnet 139. I must not die of pity. I must live. Grow strong, not sicken. Eat, digest my food that it may build me, and in doing good to blood and bone, broaden the sensitive, fastidious, pale perception. We contrive lean comfort for the starving who intrude upon them with our pots of pity. Brewed from stronger meat must be the broth we give. Blue, bright September day, with here and there on the green hills a maple turning red, and white clouds racing in the windy air. If I would help the weak, I must be fed in wit and purpose Pour away despair and rinse the cup. Eat happiness like bread. So, why does this particular poem make me think about living like Jesus? Sometimes poetry speaks plainly and directly. Sometimes poetry speaks in nuance and suggestion. I think this poem does both. So let's dissect it just a little bit. I must not die of pity. I must live, grow strong, not sicken. That's pretty direct. It's an imperative command. It calls us to a duty, to an obligation. It doesn't allow room for self-pity, victimhood, or entitlement. Suck it up, Buttercup, you have work to do. Eat, digest my food that it may build me. We have an active part to play in this. And the decisions we make and the actions we take actually matter. The quality of the food we eat influences how we are built. And what we feed our minds and our souls, it matters. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. If that's not what you're putting in, don't be surprised when that's not what comes out. And in doing good to blood and bone, broaden the sensitive, fastidious, pale perception. The true, noble, right, pure, lovely, and admirable things that we focus on will make us better people. Our sensitive, fastidious, pale perception? It could be stated another way. Our sometimes judgmental and easily offended, sometimes narrow-minded, incomplete perception is broadened or informed when we do the real and sometimes difficult work of being our best selves. We contrive lean comfort for the starving who intrude upon them with our pots of pity. From stronger meat must be the broth we give. We must take care not to look down on those around us who are struggling, thinking we know better and how to fix their problems. Sometimes the harder thing, the stronger broth, is to love and support them through their difficulty when our first instinct is to preach or correct. If I would help the weak, I must be fed in wit and purpose. Remember back to Buttercup? Helping the weak is the work we are supposed to do. But in order to do that, we must be fed in wit, our mind and intellect, and purpose, our why as Christians. Pour away despair and rinse the cup. Eat happiness like bread. And now we're back at the beginning. We don't have time for pity. Pour it out and be done with it. Embrace the beauty and happiness that is around you and is part of the process of our purpose. And what about the maples turning red and the white clouds racing in the windy air? It's what reminds us to slow down, stop, and look up. It's part of the feeding and strengthening that does good to blood and bone. It broadens our sensitive, fastidious, pale perceptions of others and the world that we live in. Live like Jesus. Let's revisit the part about not dying of pity and putting away despair. Who had a better cause for self-pity and a sense of entitlement than the one person who lived a sinless life, who had the power of creation in his hands, and was crucified, literally crucified, for doing absolutely nothing wrong. This doesn't mean we shouldn't feel bad when people are mean, when we are treated unfairly, when we draw all vowels in Scrabble, or when everything goes sideways through no fault of our own. But maybe it could be helpful to remember that we have someone on our side, at our side, who knows exactly, precisely what we are going through, because he went through it too, and worse. I have never liked the phrase, "What would Jesus do?" Too often, the answer to that question looks a lot like our own judgment, instead of the judgment of the one whose response to the worst humanity had to offer was mercy and love. I think it might be more helpful to those we're trying to help if we think about what Jesus actually did. So, what did he do? He met people where they were. He fed them when they were hungry. He healed them when they were sick. He drove out demons when they were possessed. He knew what they really needed was God, but he met their immediate needs, their felt needs, because he knew that preaching the good news wouldn't matter if they were too hungry, hurting, or sick to hear it. And when he was asked what was the greatest commandment, his response was, love God and love your neighbor. Notice that he didn't qualify the neighbor. He didn't qualify them as the most convenient or just the people who are easy to like. He didn't make exceptions for race, gender, ethnicity, orientation, political party, or sports team's affiliation. When we make those distinctions, it's like we're saying, I know what you said, Jesus, but I know better, so I'm going to do it my way. The most annoying, irritating person you know is your neighbor, sometimes literally next door. That's who Jesus was talking about loving. I once saw a Marine Corps bumper sticker that said, shoot them all and let God sort them out. I think the bumper sticker on Jesus' car would say, love them all and let God sort them out. Think about what that might look like for you today and tomorrow and next week with that annoying person in your lab group, with a student that always seems to sit by themselves in the cafeteria, with how you treat your current romantic interest that will be someone else's husband or wife someday, with the person who has different political views and is not shy about sharing them, with that classmate that is struggling in a class that comes easy for you, with the international student that looks, sounds, and acts different, but is so very far from home. That's a pretty tall order. That's why we need broth brewed from stronger meat. The broth that Jesus gave was brewed through his connection with his Father. He regularly spent time gaining strength from that relationship. And he invites us to do the same. We have access to the same strength, power, and wisdom and peace that he did. It enabled him to save the world, and it will help us love each other. Seek first the kingdom of God, and everything else will come with it. It can be as simple as being in proximity, spending time hanging out with God, talking to him, and being around other people that are trying to do the same thing. You know how you find a reason to be out on the sidewalk outside of Bowers Hall at a certain time of day, so you just happen to cross paths with somebody? 40 years ago, I just happened to have a reason to be hanging out down the hill by Sittner Hall with my motorcycle, and just happened to come up the road at a certain time when a certain someone was getting out of tennis class. And it just happened to randomly occur to me to suggest that maybe we should go to Iceberg for a milkshake. Western Wedding University is real. 40 years later, I was glad that I was lurking. I'm going to call it lurking and not stalking. It's kind of like that. But you don't have to leave class early to make sure you get there. It can happen anytime, anywhere. God is always waiting on the sidewalk and hoping to bump into you, hoping you will notice him and strike up a conversation. Sometimes it's a lengthy conversation. Sometimes it's just a smile and wave. But it's all part of building a relationship, strengthening a relationship. And it's that relationship that builds our blood and bone. So we have the ability to help the weak. It makes us better at all our relationships. It gives us what we need to brew stronger broth. So the comfort we offer isn't lean, but rich and inviting. Our job is to love people so freely that they ask us why. And then we get to say, it's because God first loved me, in spite of a lifetime of proving that I don't deserve it. He knows we aren't perfect, but in our weakness is his strength. And that allows us to pour away despair and rinse the cup, and eat happiness like warm slices of bread just out of the oven with butter. I must not die of pity. I must live. Grow strong, not sicken. Eat, digest my food that it may build me. And in doing good to blood and bone, broaden the sensitive, fastidious, pale perception. We contrive lean comfort for the starving who intrude upon them with our pots of pity. Brewed from stronger meat must be the broth we give. Blue, bright September day with here and there on the green hills a maple turning red, and white clouds racing in the windy air. If I would help the weak, I must be fed in wit and purpose. Pour away despair and rinse the cup. Eat happiness like bread. Thank you.